I'm failing to come up with the
You're
right
out
words.
of words.
I'm out of words for now, but Ernest won't be with us anymore because he's moved on. And I must say we are hiring. Weekly Wowos is hiring. Hopefully someone who's an ardent reader of Kawowo sports. I must say we are hiring. Weekly Wowos is hiring. Hopefully someone who's an ardent reader of Kawowo sports can make a guest appearance. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's fine.
We have a resident guy already.
Yeah, no. Hey,
What you are you dismissing
we
the
have
man?
already we are moving on quickly. we are moving on quickly. Ernest won't be with us anymore because he's moved on, and so has the Weekly Wars. We've moved on from Ernest to Kyle. Kyle, welcome. You've earned a permanent spot after doing well on your debut.
Was that your prayer?
That is good news.
You can imagine the level of moving on. We didn't even wait another week. Just immediately, the switch is made.
Modern society is that fast. There is no time to lament, if I may say, or look back. Things happen so fast.
Yeah.
And you always have to be forward-looking and moving.
I know the Weekly Wars is forward-moving, and clearly we have moved on. But we wish our team member Ernest all the best where he's gone, and he will surely be missed. Maybe someday he'll come, as a guest.
Guest appearance.
As a guest appearance, if his contracts allow him to be a guest.
A day that
Ernest's move is sort of like Alan Okello moving to KCCA. I mean, moving from KCCA to Vipers. It stung a little bit. You want to wish him well, but especially when he scores against you again, it is even worse. It's double the tragedy, double the pain.
You want to say it's a bit salty?
Yeah, it stings a bit, but when I don't know. I'm failing to come up with the right
You're out
words.
of words.
I'm out of words for now, but I've given the proper description. Alan Okello going to KCCA.
To Vipers.
I mean to Vipers. But then he comes back home, he scores against you. He doesn't celebrate, of course, but
He's smiling. He's not celebrating, but smiling.
I know. But it's a new week, a new episode of the Weekly Wars. We are back this week. And we have so much interesting stuff to talk about. Like we've mentioned, Ernest Akorebelonji moving on to another destination I'm sure you already know about. But this week I have the editor of Kawowo Sports, Franklin Kawero, who's a regular guest, and now a man who has earned himself a permanent seat, Kyle Kule. Welcome back. Happy to have you, and I hope you've had a very, very good and interesting week.
Surely. I'm glad to be here. The other week was for volleyball. Then the Premier League returned last week, whereby we had lots of interesting results, whereby AC Villa returned to Wankurukuku, which has been a bit facelifted. I must say, when you reach there, the green
How
looks
is this
better.
facelift though?
The dressing rooms have been built. It's no longer the other 3 rooms that we had. At least now we have something that is good for the eye. But also the small pavilion where we have journalists share with the VIPs or the officials has also been given a facelift, which I think UPDF says they are still going to do more about the same ground. But we're waiting to see, but it now looks a bit better.
Yeah, does that mean they've moved from Maroons, and I think, is it? Yeah. Have they moved from Maroons and back to Wankuruku now for the rest of the season?
Yeah, surely. They'll be playing the rest of the games down at Wankuruku, ending their small stay at Luzira.
Your friends, Mukwano Gwabanji, Franklin, are they also moving back to Wankuruku? I think they are more known for Wankuruku than AC Villa.
I want to be there comfortable at Ham Stadium. They were the first to take up the offer.
We spoke about that 20k. We spoke about that 20k.
They were comfortable to take up
the
the
house
offer.
Of going to downtown Kampala.
No, I think the management of the Express were comfortable with getting into the deal that they have with Ham Stadium, and I don't think they are going to move to Wankuruku. Not this season, at least, surely.
Okay. interesting, but I've been to Wankuku once, and I would like to maybe next week we can get some images of the refurbished facility. For those that haven't been there, to try and have a look. You may still have the old picture in mind, but when things have completely changed, Oyinzobula.
By the way, even for journalists, I've seen journalists struggle to know the gate that they're going to use whenever their games are down at Ham Stadium. But I still think as a stadium, they should do better when it comes to their entry points. Because I've been there twice, but you struggle. They will take you to this gate, then the other gate and all that. And you see outside, they use more of the army guys than stewards, which makes it even more harder. You know, when you're taking football matters with someone of security, for them their thing is order. They have very few conversations that are looking for solutions. So it's really a bit tough. But the stadium looks good, but they can still improve on one or two things.
I know. And
is the man concerned about soldiers being at the stadium? What is his concern?
No, surely. You see, for the
soldiers
football,
security,
for the
right?
football world, we need to have more talk with stewards than security officers. Even abroad for the big stadiums that we know, security guys end at a certain point, but all football people have to talk matters, security matters what? With stewards. So when you bring a lot of army guys and what, you're killing the ambience and the whole mood that we want to have as footballers. Because, and when it comes to Uganda, it's a bit rough because we know security guys for other things, so it becomes even a bit tougher. But I still,
it's a sports show, Kyle. I need to remind you.
Yeah, but I still ask that different stadiums should employ more stewards than bouncers or security guys.
Yeah, and I think that's the experience that not just at Wakuku. I think it's all that all sports facilities in Uganda need to improve on. It's the same cry that I've had at cricket as well. We're still poor on the experience. We're not taking care of the fans in a good way. So there are still things that we need to all of us learn, not just football. And hopefully that I think when I also went to watch the volleyball at Lugogo, there was a security guy, but I'm sure he didn't know. He was there on instructions, so he could easily do something that you as a fan you feel is not necessary. Yet for him in his JD, that is what he's been told to do. So I get where you're coming from, and hopefully that we keep learning and improving with all these courses that are going around in sports management.
I think it is important to have. By the way, this is across all. I think sports federations to have stadium stewards get specialized training that caters for the needs of the fans, and obviously the fans differ from country to country, and all that, of course, knowing what Ugandans are made of, if I may say, you need to train your squads according to how Ugandans respond to certain things, and I think that helps a lot. It helps a lot.
Yeah, surely. Most definitely. I hope that sports administrators can take that.
Yourself inclusive.
Sports administrators can be able to pick that up. Sports administrators can be able to pick that up. But this week, guys, I want us to start on a note, on a different note, where this month is about celebrating women, and we want to make sure that even here on the weekly Wowos, we are staying with the theme by making sure that we celebrate some women in sports who have broken barriers. Women who've kicked down doors, especially sport is really a very male-dominated area. But there have been some outstanding women who've made a big contribution to different sports. And I want each one of you to mention that a special woman that you think has done well for a sport. She's been able to be a game changer. She's shaken tables differently, and you can see there the images of the teams, the four captains who are taking part in the Women's Day series from Nepal, Uganda, Hong Kong, China, and Namibia, with that Women's Day pose, where the global theme has been to make sure we accelerate action on gender equality. And Uganda Cricket has organized a Women's Day series to just try and make sure we stay with the with the theme and try and celebrate women in a special way. So I'm going to start with Franklin. Who's that? If you can give us an insight on a woman who stood out from everyone else to try and make sure that they promote a particular sport.
I'm usually inclined with what happens on the field rather than in the boardrooms or in the offices. And for me, over the past 7 years, I want to look at one basketball player, and that player is Hope Akelo. Axie, yes. Hope Akelo has been the epitome of what they call hard work paying. Since she came into basketball, national team basketball, she has demonstrated the resilience that one, especially at a time when we have chosen, as a country has taken a path of using foreign-based players that have gone through collegiate sport and that kind of stuff. Hope Akelo has played here. Her entire basketball career has been the local player who has taken the national team by storm. She has dominated the local league, and for me, I feel she deserves all the flowers as a woman who has taken basketball. I think she's an inspiration to every local girl who plays in our league. Her dominance, her resilience, and obviously mixing work. She used to work at UNRWA. So there was a time when they used to just sneak her out of UNRWA, out of her work, to come and train with the national team. And for me, that is dedication, that is unseen. And I want to give her all the flowers.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, she's the vice captain of the Gazelles, right?
Yes.
And she's been very, very consistent over the years.
Yes,
especially
laid back.
That team that has dominated JK Dolphins.
Yeah.
I think she's been part of that unit for a very, very long time and very dominant. They're always the highest scoring in the league.
Yes.
And
multiple time MVPs.
Okay. More flowers. Are you left with any?
There's a lot to say about Hope, surely.
Yeah.
Because when you look at her discipline, for me, it stands out. For a team like JKL, it's very easy to be either satisfied or to feel comfortable because you've taken multiple trophies, you've been named the MVP. But you see, each time you see Hope on that court, she's still very hungry to win, but also she's still disciplined. She still has her head quite intact, which is not the same with a few of her teammates here and there. Anyway, my editor will not allow me to say a lot about the teammates, but a lot.
Why would you?
Yeah, a lot has been around the teammates, but Hope Akelo has kept her dedicated to the team. Always available whenever called upon when it comes to a national team. And when you hear Nick saying that they have lots of leaders, you already see him referring to Hope Akelo as one of the leaders. So for me, surely flowers should be given to Hope Akelo, and it's big times for her.
Yeah, very. And I've seen her. I think last month I saw her being one of the invited guests to inspire the girls from the Soroti Cricket Academy in Soroti. Yeah. So, Axie, keep doing what you do, and I hope you inspire more girls to take up the sport. Yeah. And I think those are the sort of role models we also want. You sort of want for upcoming girls. Yeah. You find players who found the right sort of balance between work and also being able to play the sport all the way to the highest level. We've always tended towards you're either doing one thing or the other, instead of finding a way of balancing the two, because we know in the sort of society that we come from, both things are very important.
Yes.
It's sort of not a very wise idea for you to choose one end over the other.
And unless there is something that will buzz you from doing both, I think it is always okay. You cannot put all your energy in your day job. You need, even if you're taking sport as a part-time, you need to put some time aside to get engaged in sport. And obviously, even these corporate entities always encourage that after all.
Yeah, you need a different skill away from you need a different skill away from the sport that can always be sort of your fallback position in case of anything that happens. Franklin, starting off with the basketballer, Hopper Kyle.
I didn't know Frank would go for basketball, but I found myself getting inspired or getting my stuff from basketball as well, because I want to give flowers to Jenna Sinde, because I do think for a 25-year-old, Jenna Sinde has really achieved a lot in the few years that she has played basketball. Because when you roll back to how her story started for basketball, first of all, she struggled to choose whether she goes in for netball or for basketball. Because while at Budo, they scouted her for height.
King's College or Budo SS?
No, Budo SS. She was scouted.
Just for clarity, guys.
Yes, she was scouted for height. And so the sports tutors there were struggling to know, do we go for netball? Do we go for basketball? But I think the decision was made easy because she had a sister that was earlier playing basketball. Not so talented as Jane, but at least she was also playing basketball. So Jane played for a few years in the country. Before then, she moved on to USA, where I think the whole story changed, and she has never turned back because she played for 2 teams in USA before later on then moving to China, where I think she has spent, I think, only 6 months, if I'm to be. But then she had quite a good show in just the recent Zone 5, whereby she was named MVP and she carried the team on her shoulders. I can say that in the tough games whereby you felt Uganda needed a push, she was there as a leader, but also as someone that brought the numbers that were needed. Just after that tournament, she bounced into a big deal that sent her to Spain in a team known as Encino. I'm not good at Spanish.
Is that the Spanish pronunciation?
I've never
English
done
pronunciation.
any Spanish, but but that is the team, and we congratulate the lady because she has represented the game well. Because if you're looking at faces of the game, then surely Jenna Sinde is that face of the team. I watched that video after humbling Egypt in their own park, whereby she was speaking Luganda and talking to the fans. In the stands was one of our colleagues here, Mugabi, who was in a yellow jumper and making lots of noise in the stands.
You need another reminder.
Yeah, but she surely made a good speech in Luganda, whereby she was applauding the fans that were in the stands, but also the fans that were back in Uganda for supporting the ladies. And I can tell you, while they go down into Afrobasket, that is a name you have to remember. Jenna Sinde will be quite a big name, and it will be in different discussions, not only in the newsrooms, but also on the streets, back pages. Your Kawowo website will have Jenna Sinde all over.
See,
and I can tell you that Jenna Sinde is quite a player.
Franklin is itching to say something.
when Edwin talks about Jenna Sinde and he talks about the elder sister, for those who have been around for long may remember Karo Nyafono. When this national team transition was taking place in trying to make it a little bit more consistent and professional back in 2012, 2013, 2014. One of the go-to players then in our league was Karo Nyafono, the elder sister to Jenna Sinde. She was a center, of course. At the time she was playing, I think, for Magic Stormers. And during that qualification campaign, the first time when both the men and the women went for Afrobasket in 2014, she was a key component of that team. And so the decision for Jane to get into basketball, clearly, the influence was there because there was not somebody at home who you were looking at to go into netball and all that. And by the way, at the time, Jane played barely a season in our league, and by the time she left to go to the US, she was almost head and shoulder above everyone else in the league.
Including the sister.
And the sister had retired at the time. The sister had retired at the time. I think she was in the US at the time.
Yeah.
But just like the time when Claire Lamuno left the country to go to college, she was clearly the best player in the league, and Jane was that kind of player when she was leaving. It's no surprise that she has soared. You know, when you start out in a junior college and then you go to B2B colleges, you know your talent is way up. To be able to move from a small school to a bigger school, a Division 1 school, that matter. So she has set a trail for many other Ugandan girls. Even at UTEP where she was, there are actually 2 Ugandan girls playing there at the moment. And so that just shows the kind of trail she has left. At the junior school where she started at Grayson, we have another Ugandan girl there playing. So Diana Ritaro. So the trail is very, very clear that she's leaving.
Yeah, trailblazer Jean Asinde. And I think it's not the first time we're hearing of that name. We're going to hear it for a very, very long time.
Surely.
And hopefully that she shines a lot where she's gone in Spain. And she keeps making us proud. We'll be watching her at the Afrobasket later in Abidjan, Senegal. I hope the 2 of you will be there. The 2 of you chose basketball probably as a tactic, trying to make sure that you secure your flights.
The decision was already made. We are just polishing just a little bit.
The decision was made. I'll be a different from you guys. Of course, not basketball, and I haven't chosen a sports personality as well, but I've chosen an administrator who I feel for me has set the trend. For one of the things I've picked out when we've been doing these communications for the Women's Day is how very few women are involved in sports leadership. We have so many playing, but very few are involved in sports leadership, which is an area that we struggle with as cricket, finding women leaders. Most times we always want to, the intention is there, but then you don't just want to feed it up with names. Yeah. You people need to have the capacity to do it. And for me, someone who I felt I hope she leads the next generation of sports leaders, especially in sport. I've chosen the CEO of KCCA, Anisha Muhozi. Yeah. I think she's been magnificent from transitioning from the corporate world in the bank, and then entering the murky worlds of sports, especially local sports. And when you're sometimes when you lead a federation, things are different. Yeah. But now when you lead a local football club, one of the biggest in the country, then that's a whole different ball game. There's been I've forgotten the name of there was a previous CEO who was a lady as well, but I've forgotten the name. But sort of when Anisha came into the position, she's sort of owned that space. She's been very loud, she's been very vocal. She's always ever present at the games. And for me, I felt that what she's been able to do should be able to, inspire other girls to look up to her and want to be in the sort of position she is in. Not an easy job. KCC is a club that is accustomed to winning, and then they want to win all the time. Yeah. But it's not happened in recent times with other emerging clubs as well as Vipers. And now the club is building a new stadium, and she's at the forefront of that. So I'm thinking that if she can be able to use her position, not just to help KCCA, but to handhold so many other girls to take up positions in leadership, especially in spaces where usually it is men who want to flex the muscle. And for me, I felt that Anisha is someone who's worth celebrating.
Yeah, you see, sport is fun, especially a male sport, and football, specifically in Uganda. But as the CEO of the club, you're in position to, when things are not going right, people will call for your head as well. And over the past couple of years, KCC has not been doing the right things in terms of results. Obviously, fans want their team to be winning each and every other time. As the CEO of the club, obviously you're tasked with hiring the coaches and making sure the day-to-day running of the club is. But when things are not going right, when they are calling for the head of the coach, absolutely, there is a lot of pressure to you as the administrator, the leader of that club. And to be able to soak up that kind of pressure that comes with KCC, especially the traditional teams that have the kind of fans that are always going to be calling for the head of the coach or even yourself. It is a hard work to do. It's very hard work to do, and you have to give it up to her for soaking up all that pressure.
Yeah, she hasn't been shy in when things have been. She doesn't hide when things are going wrong. She's always available in the faces of the media to try and explain. There's a KCCA fans forum I'm on, and normally I also see her typing in case the conversation is going a different direction. The conversation can be okay if you're talking about we lost like this and things like that, but normally when the conversation is going a different way, you see her trying to provide guidance, not necessarily trying to defend anything, but to sort of try and provide guidance, which for me I felt that is the sort of leadership that you want.
Yeah, when you look at Anisha and her reign, I do think that for me I've loved the character. You've mentioned one of the things that I was looking at for always being available to talk to media. You see, for us that keep on the tables to look for stories, you will always struggle to get a word from a CEO. Some people even are known as CEOs outside, but when you talk to them, they know nothing about the club. They're also waiting for someone. You see, we were following up a certain story. I think my editor remembers when they had sacked a coach via Entebbe Road, and we called the CEO, and the CEO was telling us, I also have to inquire and confirm somewhere. So sometimes the CEOs don't take a mantle, or even they are not that on ground to know exactly what is going on, but also to speak with finality. But when you look at Anisha Mhozi has always come out to speak, first of all, with finality, but also to always be available to answer not only easy questions, but also to go in for the hard questions.
Especially the hard questions. Especially the hard questions.
Yes. And then the other thing goes back to how she's always yearning for knowledge. You see, for all the leadership courses that have been around by FUFA, I remember as a classmate in Famako 1, though for me I ended at Famako 1, but then she has gone on for Famako 2 and other leadership courses, which clearly show that she has great ambitions to become a better leader, but also she has ambitions to be part and present for the game, which is something big for a lady that she is.
Yeah, kudos to Anisha. But I know there are other women as well in other clubs. Claire Mlindo at Vipers. I'm not sure of her role, but at least she's ever present when they are playing. And there was, she was called Namatovo with Toro.
The owner.
Toro United, I think.
Yes.
Was when it was still told Toro United or something. And I hope that those few that are in there can be able to to inspire other other ladies to take up sports leadership in different sports. It doesn't matter whether it is football or cricket or rugby or basketball. I hope they can be an inspiration.
Yeah, but Dennis, even in USPA, in current year, we have two great women that are going to be leaders. We have Becky Cynthia Nachimera, who is currently now the vice president, and then we have Sarah Dong, super lady, who is the assistant general secretary, which I think with them holding those two positions, I hope they represent women well, but also inspire other women to take on sports journalism as a career.
Yeah, most definitely. A big shout out to Becky and Sarah Dong, who were appointed last week. And good on USPA as well to be, gender sensitive. Realize that there are too many men here. We need to find a way of balancing it up and also use it as an opportunity to inspire other women. So very, very good to see that we are not just talking the talk, but also walking the talk. All right, to get into the gist of the matter, where do we start? Let's start with the Uganda Cranes today. Coach Paul Put summoning a team. Paul Put is sort of a celeb. As I was having a meeting at Cafe Java's. He was also having his own meeting. But a couple of people were passing by. Were like, hey, Coach, can we take a selfie? And he was kind enough to offer them that opportunity. But of course, today, Paul Put summoning a squad of 26 players who are going to represent the Uganda Cranes when they take on
Mozambique and Guinea.
Mozambique and Guinea, yes. squad of 26, I'm only curious. I'm throwing it in there as devil's advocate. Only 9 of those, of 9 of the summoned players are local best players, and I'm going to pick your minds, each one of you. Is that a fair presentation of how the league is going? 3 players from Vipers, 1 player from Bull. Bull is Joel Mutakuwa, the goalkeeper. Kitara is
Jude
Semgabi, who's really has been around, so he's an automatic choice. KCCA Gavin Chizito Mugweri has also been around quite some time. Nick Sebagala, Vida has 2, John Kakande and Ronald Sechiganda, again regular names. The Vipers players, Alan Okello, Karim Watambara and Torach. Again, no surprises in there. Is it a fair representation, starting with you, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it clearly tells you how our clubs have looked like. In Uganda, it's very hard to find a player that is consistent. That sometimes you see a player shine for 2-3 games. When the season was starting off, aside Mayanja was one of the hot prospects, and we wondered and we asking ourselves, is this a player we're going to see all season? 3 assists, 3 goals in the opening 5 games, and we were like, yes, now this is the boy that we saw in the University Football League representing Kampala University. But all of a sudden, those are the goals that he ended with, and up to now, I think
the poor season for KCZ has also affected his chances. So
yeah, but sometimes it is just a general thing. Our players are never consistent. This season, you will only look out maybe for Alan Okello, who has been consistent all throughout. But you see, for a certain given number of games, you will see Patrick Akande shine, and then all of a sudden, he's nowhere to be seen. Then all of a sudden, you see a new boy on court, Shafiq Kwikiriza, and then he will play 2-3 good games. And then before you know, he's again off, and then he comes back playing against Bali Heroes that have come without getting lunch, 4 days without training. They packed themselves in a certain car. So our players
don't worry, we're coming to Mbari Heroes.
Yes, our players are never consistent, and for me, I think this is a fair representation, because when you look at the names, these are names that have been around the team. So I think the coach clearly knows them. He has worked around with them. So because when you look at Torach has been captain in the junior clubs, and so he has been within the system. When you look at Karim Watambala is just returning to the team because he was a darling to McKinstry, which I think he has earned the place, because when you look at the different games that Vipers have played, he's been quite
actually people were surprised that he has not made this. He didn't make the previous teams, and he's only making the team now.
Yeah, but Paul Put talked about it, and he asked for consistency. He was clear that these players have to earn their positions. It's not merely saying he has ever been there. You have to earn it, so that by when you come and he's asking or requiring a lot, you don't ask yourself where you are, because you clearly know you're at a big stage and you have to play it big.
Yeah, frankly, no one, and as I come to you, there's no one from Express, there's no one from URA, teams that you feel play at a sort of a high level in this country, and they're among the top 6 teams in the league. I mean, do you feel that that no one in URA has been good enough this year to earn a position on the team, but on the overall from the summoned team, the 9 local best players, is that a fair representation of things as they are right now?
Yes, I want to start with how Paul Put has been or has named these teams since he took charge. One of the things that he's been looking for within his team is consistency, not club team, but within the team that he names. He tries to get player combinations, and you see, the national team is not some sort of a rewards program. You need to create consistency with the players that you're calling, and what Paul Put has done with the local lads is that has kept calling the same unit, apart from, of course, Watambala is coming in for the first time. But he has kept calling the same unit, and what he wants is that the player combinations that he's trying to look out for is one, if you're looking at midfield, you want to have a player who is going to be available, but you can also kind of use the ball the way he wants to play. And seeing that one, his forward line has always had Jude Semugabi, of course Mukwala, and Alan Okeo somewhere. He wants to keep that consistency. And obviously in the midfield, Uganda had taken over that holding midfield role, or a box-to-box kind of player, because of his ability to pass. And you want to believe that Poput is always going to maintain him in there, regardless of whether he's playing at a very, very high level, a high form, but he's always going to have him in there, because these are players he has worked with, and he can, I think, assign roles to quite easily than trying as a whole new project. When you talk about Express, I don't know what you're looking out for. By whether you're trying to get me to say something about the team.
Surely I was trickling you, but you don't have to say anything.
No,
I know. I understand.
Express is far from good. Very far from good. Very far from.
You are among the top 6 in the league. I'm surprised there's no one there who has been consistent enough to earn a position, a call up at least.
Yeah, but when you look at the URA team, surely they've also been tinkering themselves, because you struggle to name the same lineup of URA for 3 games, just 3 games. All the 4 keepers have been in that goal, starting with Derek Ochan, looking at their vice. All of them, all the 4 have been in that goal. And that clearly shows you that they are also not consistent as well. When you look at the player that has maybe stood out, partly has been maybe Moses Aliro. But we saw the coach has him in mind, and he's part of the Chan team. But maybe he still has to work more. And as Franklin was talking about partnerships, I think you also look that Coach Paul Put has a few qualities that he wants from these players, because he has talked about Ugandans being short of the physique. So he has always talked about having at least a bit of tall players, but also having players that are a bit fast, more so in the forward positions. And that's why we already see the likes of Omedi, we also see the likes of Mukwala, the likes of Mato, because he believes in that pace as one of the things that we have
that can compensate for the lack of size.
Turn the game.
Exactly.
If you look at the team again, and I'll just stay with you, Kyle, because you're a football expert. Mohamed Shaban, one of the guys who have been called back into the team, he earned a move in somewhere. He moved somewhere in Libya, and then of course with the departure of Hakim and Omedi to Rwanda, that also reduced the quota of local players, one from Chitara and the other from SC Villa. But do you feel confident? Do you think there's a name that is missing from those that have been summoned? Or, I mean, Paul Put is staying with the guys that he's been working with, and he was trusting them to be able to get us a result?
The only name that confuses me on that team whenever I see it is Calvin Kawowo. Calvin Kawowo has always been part of that team. I do believe that for him to come to Uganda, he's one of the players that use the longest routes, you know. The guy is taking a plane to come to Uganda, but he never plays. And I'm asking myself, why are we spending this money all the time for a player that never showcases? And maybe someday we shall get a reason. Because I think there was a press conference whereby coach was asked the same question about the player, and he said the player is still getting partnerships with his teammates and all that. But I think it's high time we see what Kawowo can give us, because we've waited for Kawowo. When you hear him speak in different interviews, you feel that he has great football knowledge, but also quite some good English. So we've seen what she can do off the pitch.
What does the English have to do with the football?
No, you see, for a player, if I put a microphone in front of a player and then he's speaking with confidence, me as a journalist, I believe that this is a player that at least has confidence, for starters. So if Kawowo has confidence off the pitch, we will now want to see Kawowo on the green. And I believe that I'm not the only Ugandan that wants to see Kawowo. So we've seen Kawowo on that list, but now we want to see Kawowo in the starting team. Then when you look at the forwards, the other forwards, that is Omedi, Roger Smart, as well as Mukwala, who have been mainly the starters. I do think that these guys have been performing well back at their clubs. Mukwala recently gave off Simba a brace, which I think makes a lot of sense to stick around with the same players, because as we are preparing, I don't think we shall go to World Cup anyway. I do think these are games that should help us become a better side.
Can you say tawolo muringi mango?
No, I don't think we shall go to World Cup. But since we are playing World Cup qualifiers, these should be games that should give us core ahead of AFCON, because we have AFCON in December.
AFCON and Chan at home.
Yes. Chan, yes, because of the players that are, because of the local-based players. But for me, I want to look at AFCON as the main thing, because these players will be representing us. Remember, we were not there for the other edition, so it's going to be a bit tough. You have to get yourselves ready mentally and physically, so that when you get there, then you don't look like your visitors. You have to get there and at least give us quite a good representation.
May leave a mark, most definitely. Muhammad Shaban, how has been his form in Libya? But I also wanted to ask about Kenneth Semakula. How is it doing up north? Because Ugandans have really struggled to make it up north. But we sort of don't hear so much about how he's doing until we see him getting summoned for the Uganda Cranes.
About Semakula, at least the good news is that he's been in the team. But the only thing is that he keeps playing different positions, which I think might affect him as a player that is developing.
Shall I see he's being summoned among the midfielders?
Exactly. And Paul Put has also talked about it more on the positive side, that he's quite a versatile player who can play as a defensive midfielder, as a right back, but also as a centre back. But in Tunisia, he's been playing so much as a defensive midfielder as well as a right back. Then when you go on to the side of Shaban, Shaban was disturbed by injuries, and that forced a loan move, whereby he has not scored a lot at his new club. But at least for a player like Shaban, you do want to believe that when you look through and scan through your different options when it comes to a goal poacher, you want to believe that he's that one person that you're going to trust. So you have to give him at least the benefit of doubt, remembering that he bounced off with quite a good season at KCC before he left. And up to now, KCC fans are still crying why the man left.
Yeah, we are suffering because we have scored as many as, if you take away the 5 we hit past Mbale, we might have, our season is dismal in front of goal. But Franklin, as we finish off for the Uganda Cranes, okay, 34% local based players, the rest those that ply their trade out of Uganda. Good enough team for us to get results against Guinea and Mozambique?
That is the best we can offer. That's the best we have to offer.
Haven't left out anyone.
So if you ask me if it's the best team to get the results, no, it is the best team that we have, and they have nothing to do but get us the results. Obviously, until the turf at Nambole was changed, I think we were untouchable at Nambole most of the time. So you want to believe the game against Guinea shouldn't trouble us a lot, especially that we are going to be at home. But of course, playing away in Egypt against Mozambique, of course, both teams will be away. But I think before Nambole was up to standard, I think Egypt had become our home. And so it is not going to be a place that is new to the players. They've been there and the coach has been there.
All right, all the best to the Uganda Cranes. The squad summoned today, 26 players who will be featuring in the games against Mozambique and Guinea. And of course, if you keep it Kawowo, you'll find out all the details when and where the games will be played. So moving on quickly, and I'll go to Franklin now. Heathens finally found a way to win. And of course, Pirates, very, very difficult game against the Hippos for them, but they were able to overcome them. Yeah. But let's start with Heathens being able to finally get a win because they had lost 3 on the bounce, but finally they were able to find, they were able to return to winning ways. Yeah,
and you couldn't find a better opponent than Mongers. Obviously, of course, that is not saying.
Sometimes they say, when you're having a bad run, even a banana peel can break your leg.
No, what we know for sure is that Mongers at home can always score. Will always score, and they did. So it was just a matter Heathens bettering what Mongas has to offer. Obviously, Mongas have had their struggle through the season, but this is a game that you thought Heathens were capable of using it as one to bounce back. Obviously, the squad suggests that there are still problems with Heathens, okay? Because on another day, this is a game that Heathens would easily get a bonus point, easy win in the past, but because of the struggles that they've been having in the season, they just managed to get over there. And actually, at halftime, they just had a 1 point lead, and you can see a team that is in a bad run. But I think everybody around Heathens is happy that at least they are back into the win column, and obviously that will be some sort of a momentum spark for them. Again, going to Kings Park, I think it was, everybody who has been in the country knows it has been very, very dry. But somehow on Saturday afternoon, it rains around Kampala. So a team that comes prepared for dry weather, you have to change tactics right away. And that becomes a problem, especially if you are not preparing for that kind of change in weather. From playing with a dry ball to again playing with a wet ball. I mean, it is very, very, very different requirements, and Hippos did not really respond well to the wet ball. And what happened was they got a beating because of their failure to respond to the wet ball. While they thrived with the set pieces, you're talking the scrum, you're talking the lineouts, they're quite okay at the set pieces, but in open play, they were shambles, for lack of a better word. And Coach Charisma, their head coach, couldn't explain what happened to his backline. He was equally as surprised as I was, having seen how Hippos play through their backline. And I think what Marvin Odong did with his boys was straightforward, is try to put that ball up in the air, see if those guys are going to be able to receive that ball with a lot of comfort. And they failed at it, Hippos failed at it, and Pirates capitalized on every other opportunity, and they kept putting the ball up. And what actually saved Hippos from not conceding a lot is because their scrum was so dominant, even especially in the first half, that even scrum feeds of Pirates were contested, and they had to move the ball out very quickly.
Interesting weekend, but Pirates, of course, also bouncing back from losing to Cobs the weekend before. Yeah. So the win for Heathens doesn't paper over any cracks for now. There are still things that they need to sort out as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they will be happy that the boys at Sevens are not going to be engaged anymore for the rest of the season.
I was coming to that because maybe to continue with the celebration for women, the Lady Rugby Cranes moving on to the next round of the qualifiers in Krakow, Poland.
Krakow,
Poland. Krakow, Poland. Krakow, Poland. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's it's the end of the journey for the rugby boys. Yep. When they were featuring in the second round in South Africa. The men finishing 11th, and the girls, I think, finishing 8th. The weekend before, they had finished 7th and 8th, which was enough for them to finish among the top 8 teams.
Yeah. When Uganda was going through this challenge, one of the things that we knew for sure, and we put out for sure, was that you should not put a lot of expectations on the team, especially the men's team, because it had been reshuffled and in some sort of rebuilding process with very many new boys, save for Norbert Okenyi, Alex Atlinda, and I think the Cobs back, the name skips my mind. I think the only three boys. Yes, Karim Marinaitwe. Yes. I think those were the only boys who had played a lot of sevens rugby with the senior fellows before, and the rest were just new boys just coming in. And obviously, going into it, the expectations were very low. So nobody around rugby should be surprised that that is how far they could go. Of course, it is still a running process. They come back and continue the work, and then, of course, seek some sort of redemption in the Africa Cup.
Maybe I just wanted to find out from you, is it deliberate from rugby to sort of, you lose some for now, but as you build for the future, because the Sevens team had done so well, they've made so much, very many of us very, very proud. Yeah. And Kawowo was always following them around all over the world. Yeah. But is this deliberate for them that, for now, let's sort of, we can afford to lose as the boys get some more experience. Maybe in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, these kids will have, the boys will have become men, and then we can still be able to push for to get into the HSBC series.
I think the demands for the HSBC series are way too high. But in the meantime, usually what happens in sport is that it is usually a 5 to 10 year cycle in trying to make a team competitive. And obviously, the guys who were around before, you're talking the Ians, Casito, Wokrach, and Philo, yes, that they had been around for almost in a 10 year cycle. And obviously, it was about time that you start this process of moving on into the next guys. But the proper way of moving on is that you get in a few guys, not more of a complete overhaul, as was the case almost in this. But you cannot, at this point, you cannot expect very good results in the near future. Okay, this is a team that is now also starting out as Uganda was back in 2013-14 when the Mnyanis were coming through. And it took them about, 4 years to get the Africa Cup in Nairobi. And so even with this group, you cannot demand a lot from them. At this point, you need to give them time for them to come of age to start delivering on the success that the previous guys had achieved.
All right, it's going to take time, and I think all rugby fans need to be very, very patient with the new crop of kids for them as, they learn the hard way. But the Lady Rugby Cranes are moving on to the next round of the qualifiers in Poland in April, I think. Yeah. In April, and hopefully wish them very, very good luck. I saw it was Kenya, Uganda, and I've forgotten the other team. The 3 teams that moved on. The 3 teams from East Africa. Was it from East Africa?
Yeah, from East Africa.
I think I have my facts wrong. But Kenya and Uganda, one of the teams moving on to the next round. And hopefully they can be able to do great things when they go to Poland. End of the journey for the boys. But of course, they have an opportunity to come back and reset. I think for the boys, the big focus for the boys men's rugby this year is trying to make sure that we qualify for the World Cup from home. But that will be in the 15th version. Yeah. So there's still a lot of work to do for the new coaches, the new South African guys who are brought in as consultants. Yeah. So there's too much. It would be very, very good to sort of try and pick their brain and get their perspective on things and how South Africa went.
Look, with a group of players we have and the sort of preparations that we are having, of course, I know that tournament in June, there is not much you can really ask of that group. Not even Erasmus can change the fate of the Rugby Cranes in 3-4 months. It cannot happen. I don't think we are ready to challenge for a World Cup slot. I don't think we are going to challenge for a World Cup slot. But of course, it is going to be good that we're going to have it here, and we're going to experience it. I mean, given how good the previous one last year was, I think we're going to enjoy rugby. But as a country, again, like Edwin said in football, we are not yet at a point where we can challenge seriously for a World Cup slot.
Franklin has really lowered the bar that let's go for enjoyment, and hopefully if we go to the World Cup, so be it. But it's clearly made sure that he's lowered the bar for in terms of expectations for all.
Don't have expectations. I think the only expectations that we had was for the Lady Cranes at the Sevens Challenger. To be honest, given the preparations that they have had over the past I think they started training late last year, November, October. I think it was a bit underwhelming, to be honest, but we thank goodness that they have progressed to Krakow, but I think overall the performance was a bit underwhelming, surely, given the preparation that they have and how they have been progressing as a team. Yeah. And because it is the same crop of players who play together for, two years now almost, consistently going across the world. So it was a little bit underwhelming, to be honest.
All right, that's the update from the rugby. Now we'll quickly switch up things, and then I'll start with Kyle. I'll bring in Kyle as we talk about the Uganda Premier League as things are sort of being sorted. I think they are sorting themselves out at the top of the table. Vipers running away with it, and the rest of the other teams. You know, there's no big difference between finishing second and fifth or 10th, apart from the money in the bank account. But it's not like the Premier League where you at the top four go here and there, but it's winner takes all in the UPL. But we want to focus on things at the bottom because Mbale Heroes and Bright Stars are having one of those seasons for them. And Kyle, I want you to first speak about the Mbale Heroes situation. They were put to the sword 5-0 to KCCA. I've had there's a notice at KCCA for Abdallah Mowilu to make sure he gets results in the next 3 games. He got a draw against Maroons. Put 5 past Mbale Heroes. The next game KCCA will be taking on UPDF in Bombo. I'm not sure of the result, but just to focus on Mbale Heroes for now. You were telling us they came on
Mbale Heroes and whatever is happening in Mbale.
If you look at the table there, Mbale Heroes at Heroes bottom of the table. Yes. Same number of points as Bright Stars. No,
they have 10. They have 10. Bright Stars has 12, and then Wakiso is on 14. There is a 6 difference between the 13th and 14th, which is Police sitting in the 13th.
Yeah, Police just need to keep winning, and they will be safe.
Surely.
Yeah, but the Mbale Hero situation, what's the story? They've been through, 3 coaches this year. Started the season with Richard Malinga, who had to leave under some very unclear circumstances.
They've had 4 coaches.
Okay, yes, actually, when after Malinga, Asaf Mwebaze came back, yes. And then there was a guy Wamboya who took over temporarily, and then they resorted to the KCCA legend Beka Mbowa.
Yes.
But the results have not changed.
Yeah, you cannot keep putting paint on the outside, yet the house is rotting inside. And that's what Mbale Heroes are trying to do. They've always come out with very harsh write-ups and press releases when it comes to their gaffers and what. But yet the management is doing a lot of... I don't know the word that I should use, but they are literally building while destroying. And for me, I think it doesn't make sense for a club that has taken long without playing in the top flight. If you come to the top flight, then you have to utilize the chance, because you're the one giving hope to football in Eastern. But when they look at the old giant who has been around, failing to handle a team for just a season, then it's in shambles. Because while Asaf Mwebaze had, before Asaf Mwebaze departed, he was talking about players not training, because players were not given transport allowance, players were not given salary on time, so players would not turn up for training, and that literally affected the team. Ahead of the game that they played on Saturday, that was a game against KCC, they had taken 4 days without training, and so when they turned up that day, they last started training on Monday. And I'm meant to learn that it was just a single time training, which was light. It was not that hard while preparing for the game, because they were just coming from the weekend fixture, which makes it tough. That you're playing against a side like KCC that first of all badly wanted to end their poor run, because they had last won in December against Wakiswa Giants, because in between there they had a win against Barra, but then because they had used an illegal player, then the points were chopped off. So they had last one in December, so they were very hungry coming into this game. And remember, KCC had a camp in Paida, whereby they were preparing ahead of their Uganda Cup. So the team was too prepared for them. And that's why when you look at the goals, most of them, Shafiq was just going through players. And they were acting as cones, and then KCC players were more like they are training. So it was quite a game between a fit side as well as a game that a side that is not ready. Because I meant to learn that even the feeding was not so good. Because while we were with Asaf just a week back, he talked about the camp having poor food, whereby players come and they fight for like, we are not taking this meal. Let's at least try chapatis and what. So for a player in the top flight, and you're having chapatis as your meal, and you want to play against KCC that have a liberty to say, today we are eating this, because there's a timetable of food that is organized by the physios and doctors, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And whatever is happening at Mbarara is more like Mbarara is the sister and Bright Stars are the brothers, because Bright Stars have gone 7 months without pay, which I think is unfair.
And it's past half season
for players, because we all know that FUFA tells you that if you go 3 months without pay, you're free to leave the club. So
that's a role in the UPL.
Yes, because it guards the players that you're not going to be kept at a club that doesn't pay you. So if you go 3 months without pay, then you're free to become a free agent. So I wonder, because you see at Bright Stars, I can understand with the people at Mbari, most of them are politicians, some are businessmen, they are good at coffee and all that. So when you're talking about football, they might not be so much. But when you come to Bright Stars, we have Ian Mutenda. We have the other guy who is the lawyer, the guy who is...
Harrod.
Yes, Harrod. And I do believe that these are guys that have been in football for time. But if they're handling the club in such a manner... Because, first of all, I was disappointed by Ian. I can tell you I'm one of his biggest fans, but you're the TD. You've decided to sack a coach. But you're taking over as a coach in an interim role, and you're refusing to leave the post. So then that puts a team in trouble, because now the team no longer has a TD. Because the person that has to supervise the coach is the coach. So now who is supervising the coach? So it leaves Bright Stars in quite a hard place. And remember, Bright Stars have always been a team that produces talent and grows young players, because it gives chance to young players. So these are some of the teams that we don't have to lose when it comes to top flight. Because when you look at the likes of Young Man, you look at the likes of Kasinde, who is now at NEC, you look at the likes of Semayange, who is now at Sivina, they've always been producing players. So you want such a team. Look at the likes of Southampton when it comes to Premier League, or Brighton, they keep producing. So you want such a team in the league, because you feel like it's a team that holds raw talent, or it holds talent that needs to be just a bit beaten, and then before you know, you have quite a good player. So these two teams are as good as Big League at the moment, and they are now just waiting for that date. Because if Police has 20 points, we all know that if you get 30 points in top flight, then it's very hard for you to be relegated. Down. So Police need 3 wins and 1 draw to seal their stay in the league. So that tells you that Bale and Bright Stars, we might be seeing them in Yumbe and stuff like that, because it's not looking good for them.
Yeah, Bright Stars, Franklin, what's happening at Bright Stars? Has Ian held on for too long?
You see, people underlook the importance of coaching, and then the importance of overseeing the work of others. It is not the same thing for you if your work is to assess what the coach is doing and kind of trying to find the money that is going to pay for these players. I don't think it serves you right when you take over the coaching role and you have to find the money to pay the guys as well. Clearly, one has to go the wrong way. And look, there is not a way you can motivate a player who has not been paid for that long to play football. Even if you're the biggest motivator of all time, it is hard because a player wants the problems at home first of all addressed before he has the right mindset on the pitch. But if you have a player whose mindset is there is nothing that is they are going to give you on the pitch that is going to get you the results. And again, people overlook this because we're playing in an amateur setting and that kind of stuff. But look, some of the contract obligations have to be fulfilled, at least on time. Obviously, some of the teams in Uganda offer player contracts that are outrageous. The money that I cannot afford to give them consistently, and that sets a precedent. So, if anything, some checks need to be done by I think the federation looking into our players actually being paid, and if not, that needs to be addressed as soon as possible, because there is no you can be having a team in the league that is not paying players. Obviously, it is going to go the Arua Hill way. At that point, before you know it will be.
I'll tell you, I ran a cricket club, and I would feel definitely for the guys who run football is a different animal from cricket. If you struggle to run a cricket club, then a football club will be a whole different animal. But
this thing of paying and Uganda, it cuts across. Even the netballers are demanding. Netballers that were representing a nation are as well demanding, and we are celebrating Women's Day. It doesn't make sense. Some of our leaders have to come and take responsibility, because you see, these are the athletes that make us proud. These are the athletes that make us happy. You know, you're switching on your screen and you're watching these girls play down in England, and the flag is being hosted, and everyone is talking about Uganda. I do believe we have to accord at least more respect when it comes to our athletes.
Yeah, I think we need a whole show to talk about how to remunerate our players. And I may be on the receiving end of that one. But how do things get better? Well, they might go down, but how do things get better? Because when you go down there, it's so difficult. You have to do so much work for you to come back up. But how do things get better at Mbale Heroes or Bright Stars?
You see, our teams have to get, I want to call them structures. Our team should get structures. You see, let me give an example for a team like Mbale. You're a regional side. You see, you have lots of people that are proud to be associated with Mbale. Some have gone to schools in Mbale. Some have wives that come from Mbale. Some have businesses in Mbale. And so many people want to be attached to Mbale. So I think they should get structures. You see, with Mbale, there's a difference between Mbale and Bright Stars. You know, it might be hard for Bright Stars to sell off a jersey, but it might be easy for Mbale to sell off a jersey, because Franklin should have a jersey of Mbale. What should Franklin be telling us if he doesn't have a jersey of Mbale?
And boss man too.
Yes, and our boss, of course. Our boss should have a jersey of Mbale. So then there are many more, like Franklin, there are many more that are attached to such a club. So I think they should get more channels of income. It should not just be the gate collection. You see, and it also goes back to talent search and all that. I think Mbale can have a good recruitment team that looks at the talents in Mbale. That before a talent like Watambala crosses to Vipers, it should first be attached to Mbale. Because the likes of Mia, the likes of Watambala, they have all come from that region. So I still think even more players come from that region and play for other clubs.
Even the Cranes goalkeeper, the one
exactly.
at
Watenga.
Yeah, Watenga.
Even Osama Arafat. Yeah, so that is a region that Mbale should capture and get to know that, okay, we should have scouts on board, look at the schools around, what are the talents there, how do they look like, how can we support them that they should get that attachment and feel like we have that connection that if they play for Mbale, they also make the region proud. So I think the team has to get into structures, get more avenues of getting in income, that it doesn't only come to the dinners that they keep putting up, and then politicians come on to lie. Yeah, I'm going to give you money. Before they are looking at the politician is also looking at the club. So I think they should get more avenues of getting in money.
Yeah, Mbale Heroes and Bright Stars in trouble right now, and the other team in trouble as well is Wakiso Giants. Police 6 points ahead of Wakiso Giants. So like Kyle has mentioned, if Police keep doing what they are doing, they should be able to survive the drop. That Wakiso story, I think we may need Chiyonga to come and dissect it for us. What has gone wrong? Two Uganda Cranes legends in charge of that team, Stephen Bengo and Tony Maweji.
The owner gave up on the team.
But the team really still struggling to get results. And I think the only celebration I had the other day is that they helped Vipers by denying NEC a victory. But I think
and they are playing Vipers next.
But Wakiso Giants, I think, is so much better than that. But that has been the discussion about the bottom of that UPL table. We'll now switch quickly. Franklin, the basketball season is about to tip off. What are some of the big, of course we've heard about the big moves, the big names going to Namuongo Blazers, but what are some of the other transfers in amongst those clubs that we should be able to look out for before the season tips off?
I think overall, unless you are a fan of the dictator, I think in terms of transfer activity as a neutral, you're probably happy that now Blazers, who have been one, the top challengers, but also two, the team that has brought life back into the National Basketball League since the times of Power and Warriors, of course, and Falcons, when they had the biggest fan base. I think Namuongo has brought some kind of life to basketball, and when they get quality signings that can make them compete for the title, I think as a neutral, as a fan of the game, get a little bit excited on what is going to happen. But of course, everybody knows they have signed the big players, or the big name players in the league. You're talking, of course, the trio from Star Oilers, James Okero, Tony Dreba, and Jimmy Enabu. Obviously, on top of that, they added a couple from KIU. That is Joel Obanza, who was probably the best point guard last season, and Peter Blank, who is, you would argue, he's probably the best wing, the best small forward there is in the league, and those make them a bit very strong. Of course, on the backup they have Seba Gala, who they got from our Savior, and of course Moses Mugisha joins their front court. And you want to build that is a team that is ready to challenge. Obviously, of course they know with the experience of the Okeros, Ton and Jimmy, they know nothing is granted, and they're going to try as much as possible to compete. And that, obviously, it is not going to be smooth.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Can Namuongo afford? Can they afford this ambition?
Can they afford the ambition? The ambition to win?
Yeah, I mean, you
overthrow the dictator.
Exactly. I mean, if the dictator is spending 100 million to overthrow him, you need to spend 120.
In terms of player personnel, I think there is not a better unit capable of getting one of Star Oilers who have dominated the league over the past decade. Of course, that will depend on what kind of players that. Especially foreign-based players that Star Oilers bring in. Of course, they are capable of bringing in very elite American basketball players to join the group any time of, whether it's mid-season, whether it's what. So you cannot do that. But for now, all you can talk about is the kind of preparation, the kind of squad that now Blazers have put together. Of course, can they overthrow the dictator? That will depend on how the dictator responds to these moves.
He has already responded by taking one of their best last season, that is Joseph Chuma. So it clearly shows you. And then the other thing, like Frank has said, City Whalers can bring in an American guy mid-season, and before you know, because we saw Petty Parish, I, for one, as a UCU fan, that guy threw in around 40 points while they were throwing us out of the series. So it clearly shows you how much a big muscle they have. But at least the good thing, like how we put it, that most of the new signings are local players. So then it makes them productive. Unlike teams that go on and bring foreigners, and then before you know, on match day, you can only use 3 or what, which makes the others then useless. These guys have gone on to get the best local players, which gives you a good unit that whenever you go into a match day, you're going to have quite good rotation. Because now you have a liberty to use different point guards, you have a liberty to use different centers, which makes them a better side. And also, they are going to give their fans a reason to come back in big numbers like it was. Because last season, they had the fans, but because these are fans that make noise, that are excited, then they want to make that noise when you're winning. So if you have quite a good squad as it goes, then they are going to give the fans a reason to come back. I've already seen a process whereby they are registering fans, which gives you another reason to say, I think this season they are coming off organized, on and off the pitch, which tells you much about the ambitions of Namongo, and also the assignment of taking away dictate.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. But talking other teams, Carl Franklin, there was a certain time you were associated with the KIU Titans, who are no more. But talking the rest of the field and the competition, what is happening there?
Look, in terms of, obviously, again, UCU will always be consistent because of their development structure. They will always be competing every season because, one, they have a good coach, and then because they have a good basketball structure. They lose players, they get players in who are good. But I want to look at JT Jaguars as the next best team outside of the Dictator and outside of State Oilers and now Blazers. I think JT Jaguars look like a side that is also going to make some noise. Obviously, they have not signed a lot of players. I'm talking about the main side. Obviously, they have not signed a lot of players, but they just got in, I think, one player, most importantly, Peter Sifuma. And he changes a lot with how their front court will operate. Obviously, by the time he left UCU, he was one of the best big men in the country, and obviously he still is one of the best big men in the country. What needs to happen is that he needs to be applying himself each and every other game. Obviously, at UCU there are games when he came and he's really not mentally ready to play, and you could see it. But if he comes with the sort of consistency and the potential that we know he can be, I think JT Jaguars are going to be real good this season. And obviously, the lady side is the one that is most likely to challenge the would-be female dictator, women's dictator, JK Lady Dolphins.
It's going to be a good matchup.
And Edwin can talk about his friends who are now at Jaguars.
Edwin, take it away, please.
Of course, when you look at Jaguars, it is more like UCU Pro or players that finish it at UCU, then most of them have crossed their side. Because even the coach is a former UCU player, and they have quite good rapport. By the way, they had a friendly over the weekend, and of course, JT Jaguars came off victors in a game whereby they disciplined UCU quite well. But when you look at their team, they've literally made it better. Bringing in Shakira and a number of players, which because it gives them an edge. Last season, they were close. The only thing that I'm scared of is that they're losing off Mercy Batamliza. Now, you're not sure whether she will be around or whether she will come back and play some games. We are waiting to see the roster, whereby we shall see if the name is there. But Franklin, for me, I'm also looking at, on the men's side, I'm looking at Kampala Rockets as another team that might disturb a few people here and there. Because into that team, they have added in Jeff Mpia, who was at KIU. Then they've also added in Kasovia from UCU. And then the coach that was at Raise Life, Naja, who is quite a knowledgeable guy when it comes to basketball, but also a disciplinarian. He wants players to be up there, which maybe has lacked in most of the basketball teams, that sometimes you see players way different in different games. Like he talked about Peter Sifuma. You will see Peter Sifuma turn up in a game and he's a monster, and then on the other day he's a small dog. I'm wondering what is happening. So most of coaches, of course, have worked around their teams. I'm told UCU has got a few players from Seroma. We're waiting to assure the side, but also the ladies' side has quite young players that can later on be molded into stars. And we only await for the season, but I'm surely excited. I only pray that FUBA can give us the opening day, whereby Jetty, Lady Jaguars takes on JKL, and then for the men, Namuongo takes on City Oilers. It will be quite...
fixtures.
Shall we fit in the indoor arena?
Yeah, but then it gives us a good starter.
Yeah, I know. I'll ask Franklin as we finish the topic that... The new structure of how the league is going to be managed by the clubs instead of FUBA, is it something that should have happened long ago, or where do you see it going, and will the clubs be able to handle the responsibility?
Here is how I look at club managing the league themselves. They had been talking about it. League managers had been talking about how FUBA is mismanaging the league, especially the funds from the sponsors. They were talking about how the registration fees is a bit high, especially when it came to areas of paying the referees and all that, when there was some sort of strike from the referees last season, and managers opted for a committee. And look, this started last season, and league managers are looking at it as a study season. But are they ready to do the management of the league themselves? In my opinion, I don't think they are. But obviously, the guys that are on the committee are quite capable. Of course, they are coming from the top teams. Of course, league management is just far away from just the gate collections and all that. I mean, much of their complaints were about gate collections, really, and not whether you're talking the quality of the game and everything else. And if your complaint is really around finances, so what happens if finances don't come? I'm waiting to see what sort of strategies they are going to put across, to whether to raise funds, whether to get sponsorships, whether to make the league competitive and all that. But my opinion is a bit laid back. I'm not fully convinced that it is going to be any better.
Yeah, I feel now the responsibility is on the league managers. Yeah. What they've been asking of FUBA is now in their own hands.
And obviously, when you look at how lower division teams also asked to run their own league, and they were given, and then they did for 2-3 seasons, and then things started going south. We wait to see.
So this is an experience that has been tested before with the lower teams, and never worked.
It worked, I think, for the first 2 seasons, and then became shaky, obviously. And I mean, human beings are quite...
There's work to do for the league managers, but the basketball season about to tip off, and as you've heard it from Franklin and Kyle, we should expect some mouth-watering clashes when the league tips off. Maybe as we finish off, I'll just give a simple brief about the baby Cranes, who lost to Tanzania in the series they played here as they prepare for the Under 19 World Cup. The Victoria Powers are taking on three visiting teams in Uganda, Nepal, Hong Kong, China, and Namibia are in the country as they compete in a Women's Day Cup. We'll bring you more of that and highlights next week when the tournament concludes on the 16th. But the baby cricket Cranes, not Victoria Pearls, losing to Tanzania in the final of their Easter series. Both of those two teams are trying to prepare for the Under 19 World Cup qualifiers that will be in Nigeria later this month. A lot of lessons, and I think from what we saw from the Under 19 boys, it's not a good indication of where our development is.
Then, again, I'll go fast forward back to, I think, was it last year? Before, when we were preparing trying to qualify for the previous World Cup in Tanzania. And I'll refer to what the head coach said back then. We were not scoring runs. In one of his interviews, the reasons he gave why we are not scoring and why Uganda is not scoring runs is that other teams are also not scoring runs. And so he was making a Ugandan problem other teams' problem as well. But when you come home and then you are trying to bat out a 50-over game inside 30, that becomes a very, very big problem that coaches need to address.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the fundamentals are totally missing from the young players, and which is the the result is not the problem. I think everyone is worried about the process. Yes. The result is surely not the problem, but the process has been lacking. You don't want to see young players playing like that. It has to be very different. And I hope, for me, those are the lessons that Emmanuel Isanez and Robinson Turinawe will have to address. At a young age, you want to forgive the result, but it will be very difficult for you to forgive the process of how you get there.
You see, when you have your openers getting out in 10 overs and you don't have any of them batting through 10.
Actually, for me, the biggest problem was in the game they even won. They chased down about 250 runs inside 28 overs. In a 50-over game. That is very, very unacceptable.
They're batting T20.
But, I mean, you got the result, but something is still missing. And hopefully that before... And the other for me was the sort of... I've been to Nigeria before, and the surfaces in Nigeria are very, very different from what they were playing on here. And I felt that wasn't ideal preparation, because when you go there, the surface is totally different. You need greater application for you to actually be able to score runs. So I hope that when they go back, the problem with junior players now, they are going to go back to school. Some of the boys are in Form 6, and you need to allow them to pursue their education. Yeah. They leave Uganda on the 26th of March. They will come out of school probably sometime next week. Then they will spend an extra 14 days away from school. So their whole first term, for most of them, has been interfered with. And you feel that then you're asking too much of the young players as well. You're asking them to find a balance between school and cricket, helping the country qualify for a World Cup, which is sort of a big deal. So the preparation can never be ideal, but I think the fundamentals have to come from a proper schools development program where the national team coach doesn't have to do so much work, but is only asking them to polish up a few details. Yeah. So there's a lot of work to do. I think, like I've said, it's a reflection of our development program. The work has to do with the development coaches, not those that are already at the top. But
that sounds good coming from the man in charge.
My manifesto.
The boss.
I'm mentioning some points from my manifesto.
Yeah, obviously, in the next 2 years, we shall be assessing whether your word is what the actions reflect.
Yeah, episode number 4 may be something that I may have to ask admin to remove it. I may ask the admin to remove this episode. But again, as usual, the producer's not always very happy with us because we take a lot of their time. But that has been our time here on another episode of the Weekly Wowos. I've had Franklin Kawowo, the editor of Kawowo Sports, Kyle Kule, who's one of the writers here at Kawowo Sports, and I've been your weekly host, Dennis Musali. And until next time, keep reading Kawowo Sports.